It's Jillian with JillyJuice.com. And I wanted to talk about sepsis because I didn't know that sepsis was actually the quickest way a person that has maladaptive traits in their body, the quickest way for them to pass away. And an otherwise ordinary, what you think an ordinary healthy person, contracting sepsis and taking about 12 hours to pass away is like super freaking quick. It's like, holy crap. And what would I liken that to so people can understand what sepsis actually is? And it just hit me after all the postings that I did in the group, on my business page, as well as on my Facebook page. After reading all of those posts, and I did a little more studying, and then of course I already studied the Rh factors and the blood types. Well, sepsis is like getting the wrong blood type. Like if you're O negative and you're getting AB positive blood, the amount of antibodies that would be created because you're getting surface marker antigen A and surface marker antigen B, as well as then the Rh factor, that would actually thicken up your blood and cause heart attacks and strokes where you wouldn't survive, or a complete organ shutdown, because those antibodies would go after all good tissues and shut down your vital organs. And so what had me triggered to talk about sepsis was I was reading about the CIA, or one of our SEALs, not CIA, the SEALs, went and saved those people from a cave in Thailand. And this one guy, he was fighting a blood infection from when he was in Thailand, and it took him down and he passed away. And he was what people say was otherwise ordinarily healthy. And I'm like, well, what would take somebody down in 12 hours? Well, I mean, infection, when you have an infection, it means you have imbalances, you're malnourished, okay? Which means you haven't fixed your weaknesses. You have imbalances in your fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals. And then the body is not purging out, like your immune system is really, really weak. And so you have all these antibodies are building up, and then you have an infection. So when you have an infection and you have all these antibodies quickly building up and you have imbalances in all of your biochemistry, that's when a person can get taken down as if they got a blood transfusion from an AB positive and they're O negative. Because that's what sepsis is when you have when you have an infection in your body that is not getting resolved. It means you have major imbalances, and what it affects the most is the elderly. Okay, so an elderly person who has imbalances, and they get infections easily because remember, they're aging, and when you're aging and degrading, you already have imbalances in your biochemistry. You're already malnourished. The body's defenses are very, very, very low. And so if you get cut, or you get some kind of UTI or any other infection in your body, and it doesn't get resolved quickly, and even antibiotics can't even help you that much, the body isn't getting the fluids. Well, what are fluids? Not just water. It's also electrolytes. Okay, so they're using saline bags to go and treat sepsis. What's in a saline bag? Well, you have the glucose, or the dextrose, you have the water, and you have the salt and potassium and magnesium, and you have like the electrolytes that are in those IV bags. And they're used for stabilizing somebody that's dehydrated, for breaking up antibodies in a person that has an overabundance of antibodies. Because, when you get an allergic reaction to, say, like an antibiotic, like say penicillin or sulfa, I had to go to the hospital one time when I had a UTI a long time ago, and they gave me sulfa to combat the allergic reaction. And then I started getting these red spots, and they were saying I had really high white blood cell count. And so I was in the hospital overnight, and they put an IV in me, and that IV was full of electrolytes. And so they had to monitor and count my blood platelets and the white antibodies, the white blood cells, to make sure that they weren't more than what they're supposed to. Because if they start multiplying too quickly, it starts attacking good tissue. Okay, so sepsis is the same thing. it's when you have an infection that you have imbalances and you're not bringing in the electrolytes, the nutrition, the water, the lactic acid. So some of you that have dealt with operations recently, okay, you never know, especially if you're already weak and you just had an operation. Sepsis is always something that could be in the back of your mind somewhere. So when you're bringing in allopathic medicine, which is fine, I'm not knocking it, but if you're not bringing in the J juice on a continuous level, or you say, okay, I'm going to do this operation, do J juice later on and stabilize, you hope that you don't trigger sepsis, because sometimes it actually goes unnoticed. And some of you have told me that your loved ones that are elderly that went through allopathic medicine and they passed away from sepsis. It's not even just heart attacks and strokes like the second time around, because the first time around, yeah, you changed your diet, but you never got to the root cause. And so when the next time you had an upset of homeostasis, a symptom of a heart attack, you couldn't survive it. That's not the first thing. That's not the quickest thing a person dies from. Sepsis is the one that is the biggest killer, and it kills you faster. I mean, imagine, because I mean, that guy from this Navy SEALs are really, really strong. I mean, they're bred to be strong, but they have predispositions. And so if you have predispositions and you have weaknesses from predispositions and you're going into a foreign country where you're exposed to bacteria that your body isn't used to and you're not prepared to deal with that, and that's no different like Ebola coming into America and the West. But if you get exposed to a virus that your body isn't prepared for and you already have predispositions and weaknesses, and then you get an infection because you have a weakness, and then you're not bringing in the right chemistry to balance out your biochemistry and heal the weaknesses in your body, yes, you could trigger sepsis. So I'm not trying to scare you guys, but it's something that you got to be aware of. You got to know every single thing that could possibly take you down, from the most extreme thing that could potentially be rare to the most benign thing. But what's really benign? It's benign on a body that's relatively strong. It may not be benign on a body that's very weak. So what is benign? Benign is relative to the state of the person's body. Okay? So it just hit me when I was on the toilet, actually. The things that I think of when I'm, trying to figure out how I could communicate this information to where you can understand in a different context. So sepsis is like getting a wrong blood transfusion on a body that's supposed to get the right blood type. So if you're O negative and you get an AB positive, then you are building up antibodies too quickly for the body to be able to catch up with and balance out. And that's what sepsis is a body having antibodies being created from infection, because the body's so weak, the immune system is stagnated. You have obviously malabsorption and weaknesses. And so a person could be taken down in as little as 12 hours from sepsis. So a UTI could be like something someone could die from if their body is that compromised. So those of you that are dealing with parents that are doing the J juice, or you just got out of the hospital and you had an operation and you're being conservative with J juice, just make sure in the back of your mind you got to get those electrolytes in, because that's what's in the J juice is electrolytes, lactic acid, micro and macro nutrition, water. Okay? And what's in electrolytes? It's sodium chloride, calcium, magnesium, potassium, other trace minerals. And the body will determine what it needs to absorb, what it needs to release. Because the reason why they don't say this so much in the medical world is because you're not supposed to take medicine and dose yourself. It's supposed to be what a doctor, a lay person should not be giving themselves their own IV. You have to be licensed to give an IV to anybody. So that's why you don't hear too much about salt and sodium in IV bags for people as like cures, put out there on the open market, like in a drugstore, because a lay person is not supposed to be dosing themselves with IV bags. However, with the J juice, you're taking it in your digestive system. The body's releasing the excess, and then you're absorbing what it needs. and then you're healing and sealing at the same time, you'll be doing waterfalls. You're not going to be triggering dehydration because you're going to drink water, and the salt, the saline, the salt, the electrolytes, all of that will then mitigate any dehydration. Okay. I mean, hypernatremia, which is everybody's like afraid of the salt, is very rarely ever triggered, because when somebody has too much salt in their body, or when they have a lot of salt in their body, they just drink water. But hyponatremia, not enough salt, is actually the most common thing that people experience as far as diagnosis, is because they're so afraid of salt and they've been scared away from salt that they actually lower their salt intake, which then triggers a whole host of issues, as if you had too much salt and not enough water. Okay, so those of you that have just had operations, those of you that are dealing with elderly people, those of you that are immunocompromised, I was listening to something. And those of you that, and you're dealing with walking pneumonia, because right now I'm seeing a lot of people. Thank you, Cindy. I'm seeing a lot of people coming down with walking pneumonia, and pneumonia is an infection. A person, an otherwise relatively healthy person, could die from pneumonia, vaccinated or unvaccinated. If you already have predispositions and you already have major imbalances, and you're so afraid of the J juice, the flu, pneumonia, all these viruses that are out there right now floating around, could take a person down that already has major predispositions. And it doesn't have to be major, it could be minor, just like that Navy SEAL. Gloria goes, I've been drinking the Jilly juice since I got home, pressing through. I'm believing that my previous 2.5 years on J juice has reinforced and prepared me for the healing now. Absolutely. Absolutely. No matter what it is you do in the medical world, no matter what you do in the holistic world, which the holistic world, you really don't need to turn into the holistic world, because that is an unregulated world that people go overboard in. And there isn't enough oversight to stop someone from taking too much garlic, from taking too much turmeric, too much kombucha, too much apple cider vinegar. And that will already open up a can of worms that people really shouldn't be opening up, but they do, because they're so afraid of big pharma and so afraid of biotech. And they think that the CIA created these Ebola virus, and oh my God, I mean, people are losing their minds, on some of these groups. But just drink the J juice. Okay? Drink the J juice. And if you have to use modern medicine, use modern medicine and drink the J juice. John Noakes says, you just kickstarted my next waterfall session. Good. Good. I'm telling you, I feel amazing. I mean, my poop muscles, when they're getting rid of poop, are very, very strong. Okay, it's almost like giving birth to a baby. And not that I've ever given birth to a baby, but I think they use the same muscles, kind of. The vaginal muscles and the poop muscles are kind of in the same region. Okay, so you got to strengthen those muscles, because you got to get rid of excess. And then you also got to bring in the right, balance. And then you got to look for indicators. When you feel like there's a little bit of heartburn and you're on the J juice, like maintenance schedule, then you bring in other chemicals, which is, other elements in the food supply, to then balance out all of your chemistry. So you'll understand how your body works and the indicators, so that way you can keep the balance on a continuous level. But no matter what, in the beginning, when you first start J juice, the J juice is going to be the predominant thing. You'll still stick to the diet if you can. Some people have modified it, which fine, okay, but it would be better if you stay with the blueprint. And you just get the waterfalls, get your predispositions coming to surface. And I can't tell you what you're going to experience. I can't tell you if the J juice is going to keep something away. Somebody asked me through private messenger if the J juice keeps away scabies. And scabies is like a fungus, parasite fungus. And it's not that it keeps it away. The reason why you have scabies, or the reason why you might be afraid of scabies, or potentially feel like you've been exposed to it, is because you have a weak body, that if the body needs a parasite to compost your poop, or it's weak where it can't get rid of any excess organisms that don't belong there, then yeah, you may be hosting a lot of entities in your body. But when you strengthen your body, you're going to be releasing any excess organisms that don't belong. Your body still needs a certain amount of bacteria, your microbiome. Come on, sugar. Come here, sugar. Come here. Come here. Come here. You know, your body has a microbiome. It has bacteria and stuff. Hi, baby. I know, I see you. We'll go outside in a minute. Okay. So the J juice, if you have scabies in your body, they're going to come to surface, and then they will be released through your filtration process. And then you don't have to worry about it. You could have so many amount of scabies in your body or whatever, and you may be experiencing a release of scabies or whatever coming to surface for the next year. I have no idea. I don't know your biochemistry. I don't know your predispositions. I don't know your background. I don't know your lifestyle. And so when you do the J juice, things are going to come to surface, and then you will adapt to your surroundings. It's like I could have black mold in my house and do the J juice, and as long as the black mold isn't like sitting right on top of my face, okay? But if it's like in my environment, my body will adjust to my environment unless those spores overwhelm my system. Okay, so your body's constantly going to adjust, and it will let you know if there is an overabundance of any type of element or bacteria. And then what happens is then you get mucus. You will see your body give you signs that that's releasing any excess that's in your environment. So the whole J juice helps you get to know your body, helps you get to know your environment, helps you get to know the world that you live in. Okay, so so the best way I could, as far as figure out how to explain sepsis is when you have so many white blood cells, so many antibodies building up because you have a weak biochemistry, imbalanced biochemistry, weak body, and there's too many antibodies multiplying for the body to be able to handle. And this is how people die as well. And it usually hits the young, okay, and the immunocompromised, and it hits the elderly. And then also, I guess, even someone like a Navy SEAL who has picked up a bacteria in Thailand, not used to that environment, and cannot seem to heal from an infection. And when you have an infection that is not being healed, that's a lot of antibodies. And that's what people get scared of too when they have abscesses. When you have an infection in your body, you have an abscess, it's going to get big. So when you do the J juice, yes, those antibodies multiply. And it's painful because the body's trying to heal. Eventually, any type of swelling does go down, okay, if you bring in the right elements. But if you are not doing the J juice and you have a huge abscess, this is why they say go to the doctor, get it drained, get some antibiotics, stop the multiplying of this infection, but you still don't heal. But then even antibiotics, they say, isn't the only way. You got to bring in the fluids. That's what breaks up the sepsis, is the electrolytes. It's those IV bags that are full of the dextrose, which is a type of corn syrup or sugar, and it has saline and water, minerals. Okay. So yeah, when you're doing the J juice and you have a major infection, yeah, you're going to see swelling. But you keep drinking the J juice. If you feel you need to go get it drained by a doctor to lance it and do whatever, do what you got to do, but still do the J juice. And it's going to be painful. No matter what, it's all going to be painful. Okay. But you have to understand how your body works. If you don't, then you'll always be undermining the body's intelligence. And then it's like it will cater. It was like, what is it? You rise to the level of stupidity. What is that? We rise to the level of something. People get promoted to the level of, I don't know. There's a whole saying where when someone gets promoted, the company will rise to the level of whatever it is that they deem is correct. So you could be applying the wrong chemistry to the body, and the body's only going to work to the level of its intelligence. And if you have good intelligence around your body, you're not going to get very far. Okay, so the J juice really taps into the higher intelligence of your body, and then you'll rise to that. You'll rise to the level of the intelligence of your body, because obviously humans right now are kind of dumb around their body, and that's why they're dying between 50 and 100. Maybe they're lucky to live to be 114. But now when you give the body what it needs, you will rise to the level of intelligence of your body, of Mother Nature. And Mother Nature will reward you with life. You'll be in pain too, but that's the trade-offs when you have abused your body for such a long time, for generations. You got to pay the piper, and then you'll be rewarded with life. Okay, so that's it. But have a good evening. I wanted to explain sepsis because I had to hear it in my head how to explain sepsis so people understand. I mean, everything is connected. You know, wrong blood transfusion, sepsis, too many antibodies in the body, agglutinating from, you know, when you're HIV positive to then the AIDS virus. That's all the antibodies of the AIDS virus agglutinating together, and now you have the actual virus, the symptoms. It's all the same stuff. Antibodies, agglutination, white blood cells, sepsis, infection, antigen. Okay, all of that stuff is all related. So you have to understand the relationships between all of those things are not separate. It's the same thing said in a different way, in a different context, but they're all connected. So once you understand that these are all the same things that happen to the body, but in a different context based upon the methods of treatment, and that's why they call it sepsis versus, you know, agglutination versus, I don't know, infection. Okay, it's all the same stuff, but it's based upon the context of which is representing to then warrant a specific bio, you know, pharmaceutical methodology. So if you understand how that works, then you'll realize that everything is connected. There's nothing separate. And then you'll understand how your body works and what you need to do. Just keep drinking the J juice. The salt, the saline, whatever, the probiotics, the micro and macronutrition deals with it all. Every single symptom and disease and whatever, it's all the same stuff, just in a different conglomeration, a different set of systems. Ones are more, you know, some are more prominent than the others as far as the symptoms, but it's all connected. It's all dealing with how the body responds to stimulus. Okay? All right. You guys have a good one. Thanks for hanging out. Happy New Year.